Dr. Emma Taylor, a renowned psychologist, had always been fascinated by the effects of isolation on the human mind. She decided to conduct an experiment recruiting 5 volunteers to spend 30 days in a state of the art isolation chamber. The chamber was designed to simulate a futuristic self sustaining environment with all the necessities for survival. The volunteers would have no contact with the outside world, and their only interaction would be with each other. As the experiment began, the volunteers settled into their new environment. However, it didn't take long for strange occurrences to start happening. Equipment would malfunction and strange noises could be heard coming from the vents. The volunteers started to experience vague, disturbing dreams, and some even reported seeing shadow figures lurking in the corners of the chamber. As the days passed, the volunteers became increasingly paranoid and aggressive towards each other. They started to suspect that one of their own was behind the strange occurrences. But the truth was far more sinister. One night, Emma received a distress call from the chamber. She rushed to the control room only to find that the volunteers had disappeared. The chamber was empty except for a single phrase etched into the wall: "We are not alone." Emma realized that the isolation experiment had unleashed a malevolent force, one that had consumed the volunteers. As she watched the footage from the chamber, she saw the volunteers descend into madness. And in the end, she saw something that made her blood run cold. The volunteers were not alone. There was something else in the chamber with them, something that had been awakened by their fear and isolation, and it was still out there waiting for its next victim. In the 1950s, Blackwood Sanitarium was a state of the art psychiatric hospital renowned for its innovative treatments and compassionate care. However, behind closed doors, the hospital's administrators were conducting inhuman experiments on their patients. The story begins with a young journalist named Emily who receives a cryptic tip about the dark past of Blackwood Sanitarium. Emily decides to investigate and she breaks into the abandoned hospital to uncover the truth. As Emily explores the decaying halls, she starts to experience strange and terrifying occurrences. She hears whispers and footsteps, and she discovers cryptic messages scrawled on the wall. Emily soon realizes that the hospital dark past is still very much alive. The echoes of the patient's screams and the administrator crudely still linger in the air. One night, Emily discovers a hidden room deep in the hospital basement. Inside, she finds a series of disturbing recordings documenting the hospital's twisted experiments. As Emily listens to the recordings, she realizes that she's not alone. The vengeful spirits of the patients are still trapped in the hospital and they are determined to make Emily their next victim. Emily tries to flee, but the hospital doors are sealed shut. She's trapped and the spirits are closing in. The next morning, the police find Emily's car parked outside the hospital, but she's never seen again. The legend of Blackwood Sanitarium lives on, a cautionary tale about the dangers of playing with forces beyond our control. And if you ever find yourself driving past the abandoned hospital, beware the echoes of the past, for they may just lure you in. In the 1950s, a mysterious radio broadcast began transmitting from an unknown location. The broadcast was a continuous loop of eerie music, whispers, and strange noises. At first, people were fascinated by the broadcast, trying to decipher its meaning and origin, but as time passed, the broadcast became a source of terror. People who listened to the broadcast for too long reported experiencing strange visions, hearing voices, and feeling an intense sense of dread. One stormy night, a group of friends gathered in a small apartment to listen to the broadcast. They laughed and joked at first, but as the night wore on, the atmosphere grew tense. Suddenly, the broadcast changed, the music and whispers stopped, and a voice spoke clearly. They are coming for you. The friends tried to flee, but the doors and windows were stuck. The voice on the broadcast began to laugh manically, and the friends realized they were trapped. One by one, the friends disappeared, never to seen again. The last one remaining was a young woman named Emily. As the broadcast continued to play, Emily heard the voice whispering her name. She knew she was next. The next morning, the police found Emily's apartment empty, the radio still playing the eerie broadcast. The broadcast loop continued to transmit for years, driving people mad and drawing them to their doom. Some say that if you listen to the broadcast loop, you'll hear the voices of the damned calling out to you. Others claim that the broadcast is a warning, a message from another dimension. But one thing is certain, if you listen to the broadcast loop, you will never to be the same again. In the sleepy coastal town of Ravenswood, nestled between the misty mountains and the dark water of the bay, a legendary tale has been passed down for generations. It's said that on certain nights when the moon is hidden and the tide is low, the vengeful spirits of those who died at sea rise from the depth of Darkwater Bay. The story begins with a group of friends who decide to explore the abandoned lighthouse on the edge of town. The lighthouse has been closed for decades, and the locals whispers about the tragic events that occurred there. As the group climbs the crumbling stairs, they discover a series of cryptic messages etched into the walls. The messages speak of an ancient curse, one that awakens when the moon is new and the tide is low. The group dismisses the messages as mere legend, but as they reach the top of the lighthouse, they met with a chilling sight. The words, "They're coming," scrawled across the glass in bloody letters. Suddenly the group hears the sound of whispers carried on the wind. The whispers grow louder, and the group realizes that they're not alone. As they frantically try to escape, they're confronted by the vengeful spirits of those who died at sea. The spirits are drawn to the lighthouse, and they are determined to claim the living as their own. One by one, the group members disappear, pulled into the darkness by the malevolent spirits. The last one standing is a young woman named Sarah. She manages to escape the lighthouse, but as she runs back to town, she realizes that the spirits are still with her. The next morning, the townsfolk find Sarah's car abandoned on the beach, the engine still running, but Sarah is never seen again. The legend of Darkwater Bay lives on, a cautionary tale about the dangers of meddling with forces beyond our understanding. And if you ever find yourself in Ravenswood on a night when the moon is hidden and the tide is low, beware the whispers on the wind, for they may be calling your name. In a small rural town, there lived a mysterious figure known only as the Devourer. It was said that the Devourer had the ability to consume people's memories, erasing their past and identity. The story begins with a young woman named Sarah who returns to her hometown after a decade away. She is struggling to recall her past, and the memories she does have are hazy and fragmented. As Sarah tries to rebuild her life, she discovers that several people in town have been experiencing strange memory lapses. They can't recall their names, their families, or even their own identities. Sarah soon realizes that the devourer is real and is feeding on the town's memories. She tries to investigate, but every lead she follows ends in a dead end. One night, Sarah receives a mysterious message: "Meet me at the old oak tree if you want to remember." Sarah goes to the meeting point where she finds a figure shrouded in shadows. The figure reveals itself to be the Devourer. The Devourer explains that it's not just a monster, it's a collector of memories. It feeds on people's experiences, emotions, and thoughts. Sarah tries to flee, but the Devourer catches her. As it prepares to consume her memories, Sarah realizes that she has one last chance to remember her past. With a surge of adrenaline, Sarah recalls a fragment of her childhood. She remembers playing with her friends in the woods, laughing and carefree. The devourer is taken aback. It's not used to its victim remembering anything. Sarah seizes the opportunity, recalling more and more memories. She remembers her family. As Sarah's memories flood back, the devourer lets out a deafening scream. It's being forced to relive the memories it's consumed and it's overwhelmed. Sarah takes advantages of the distraction to escape. She runs back to town, determined to warn the others about the devourer. But as she looks back, she sees the devourer watching her. It's waiting for its next victim, and Sarah knows she'll have to confront it again. The story ends with Sarah warning, "Don't forget, the devourer is always hungry."